So Bharat is a culture where we had gurukuls. So even a Raja, the ruler, had to go to the gurukul. Okay, the guru would not come to the palace to teach the Raja. And what is being taught in the gurukul is, okay, before you become a Raja, you learn Swarajya. You learn how to self-rule. Then you will be able to rule your kingdom. If you do not learn self-rule, you cannot become a Raja. So you can't just go make somebody and say, okay, you're the head of this company or you're a start. Cannot do it. They just cannot. So that self-rule, the Swarajya, will have to go in as a subject. It is a subject actually. It's really not optional.
It is leadership, right? I mean, if you talk of that.
Self-rule, self-discipline, mind control. This is a subject. It's not just for psychiatry or psychology. Emotional management will need to become a subject.
Welcome to this Think Right podcast, which we are doing for the first time on a subject which is probably the most exciting, most relevant in today's times: mindfulness and education. Of course, we have our two phenomenal guests, our ever radiant spiritual guide, Sister Shivani, and the Pro Chancellor of Symbiosis International University, an educator, a true resident of Pune, and someone who resonates the word education, teaching in a way that nobody else does, Vidya Yeravdekar. So welcome to both of you on this podcast. And we really look forward to getting into a discussion that will address this very crucial subject. And, whenever you go and Google today, what is the one word that is, capturing the attention of everyone is mental health. I know it's a two-pronged kind of a word which has multiple repercussions. But Vidya, when you look at education today and you hear this word mental health, what do you think when it just strikes you for the first time?
See, honestly, mental health is a word that used to be taboo earlier. But in today's times, it has been spoken about, pretty much with great freedom and expression, both by students, young people, parents, as well as people from the education sector. And I think it has started gaining, a lot of. What would I say? I wouldn't say popularity is not the right word for me to use, but it has become pretty expressive. People have started talking about it. Young people have started talking about it. And I think that's been a good change. And educational institutions can play a very, very important role, I personally feel, not just at the higher education level, but even at the school education level, to deal with issues related to mental health. As a medical doctor, I believe that good health is not just about good physical health, but it means good mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and social health. And I think when you put all these together, then you say that, it's a healthy individual. So while we concentrated on physical health for several years, it's time now in the 21st century to also look at the mental health part of the overall health perspective of an individual.
Now, given that it's a real challenge today, how does, positive thinking, mindfulness really help address something like this, especially when it's so relevant and so important for us to talk about it today?
We look at it as mind fitness. So when we have to check our body fitness, we will see our stamina and we will check our immunity. So if I'm not able to climb 3 flights of steps without getting breathless, then I'll say my stamina is low. If I'm catching a cold and cough easily, then somebody will say your immunity is not good. So I have certain signals which tell me my immunity and stamina is not good. Realize it and I start building up on that. And for that, I need good diet and good exercise. So how do I check my emotional stamina? And how do I check my emotional immunity? If I'm thinking too much and my mind doesn't stop thinking about something, I'm not being able to choose my thoughts, but thoughts are coming which are not what I want to think about. I'm losing that capacity to be able to create my own thought. If I am getting affected by situations, not creating my own response, but reacting based on the situation. So which means if I live my life saying, I'm upset because of what you just said to me, or I say, I'm irritated because of the way they are working, or I say, I'm not happy the way he was this morning. So this vocabulary is coding inside that whatever I'm feeling is because of you, and you. And for me to be perfect, everyone needs to be perfect around me. So then my immunity system is very low. It means I don't have that thing to be able to keep myself healthy. I need the weather to be perfect, the water to be perfect, the food to be perfect. I don't have that mechanism where I'll be able to be there and be able to start. So that emotional dependence is what is depleting that inner power. If we start building little fitness tools for that, it's going to be very easy to come back.
So I think it comes back to you. So education has to build.
No, but I'd like to respond to what you said. This is exactly what we're doing through the Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing. In fact, we are just setting up mind studios, as we call them, in every campus of Symbiosis. So, through the Center for Emotional Wellbeing that we established a few years ago, exactly to deal with these issues that you're talking about, that if you can't change a situation, you should change your thoughts and you should adapt to that situation, so that then you believe that everything around you can deal with. Because like you train corporates, I think you need to train the young people also, that things around you are not going to be as what you think are right. And therefore, how do you change your thought process? And exactly for this, we're developing these mind studios, and you will soon see within a year every Symbiosis campus through the Center for Emotional Wellbeing already has counselors, but will have physical spaces called mind studios. We do an annual health checkup. As you very rightly said, we used to concentrate only on the physical checkup. So we used to have these students examined by doctors, go through their blood tests, find out problems, and then subject them to specialist doctors. Now we've added the mental health component also, because we've developed a toolkit that assesses the resilience, the other mental health parameters of the student. And wherever we feel intervention needs to be done, we do it through our counselors. So we are kind of moving to what
So the best thing is to start tracking that before we ever reach towards a mental health issue. So we start tracking our emotional health and then catch it as soon as the first signs appear. Then, because children, like we said, we need to adapt. The culture today is not that, based on probably whatever content they're consuming. Like earlier, when we used to meet couples who were planning not to live with each other anymore, and you talk about adjustment and tolerating, it was still a little easier to explain. Now it is, but why should I adjust? It's my life. Now it's no more, it's our life, even if they have children. So earlier, you make children there the topic and you say, but think about your children. And they were like, yeah, because that's my responsibility. Lot of change now. Now they'll say, so you are trying to, they'll talk aggressively. So you are trying to tell me that I should suffer for the rest of my life because of my children? So leave alone thinking about the spouse. That compassion level is dipping so much. This is also a sign of low emotional health, where you're not able to create compassion. You have brought those children into your life, and now you're saying, why should I adjust for my children? So that even that understanding that I should adjust is kind of dipping, because they feel it's my life. So I don't need to adjust with people. I will lead life the way. So these are signs where it's really dipping. So if they're able to track that at the beginning stage, and when they are counseled and guided that this is not the way it's going to work, it'll create miracles in their life, because relationships are getting affected the most.
And why is it not coming into the curriculum? I mean, like we talk about it, this was somewhere in the past, it was, historically we talk of Bharat and we talk of, Gurukul, and, the whole first 10 years of a child's life was spent in actually strengthening their inner self so that they can distinguish between this. Where did we lose it, Vidya? I mean, Vidya itself means knowledge and learning.
I think it's also not about just the education system, but I think the overall ecosystem, as Sister Shivani just said, that there is so much of bombarding of knowledge beyond education as well, which you can't control. So I think it's all a collective effort of not just education institutions but parents as well. As I said to you in our earlier informal discussion, also, Rajan, that somewhere that resilience that we all had during our generation has dipped in. And I think the reason that we were far more resilient, or we are still, is because we didn't have that abundance that kids do have today. So if you look at even going shopping, you see these malls, you see kids going in, parents taking them for no reason at all. Whereas we got new clothes only on your birthdays, on your, either some anniversary or Diwali or something. So, which means that many a times if you ask something to your parent, and even if they had the money to give you that, they would say, no, this is not the time. How many parents say that? To shut up your child, many a times you keep giving things because you just don't want that irritation. Now,
And most likely you give them a digital
exactly.
device, which is
Or you give a
actually
digital device so that, or you just give them whatever they want. I'm not saying don't give them, but somewhere they need to draw a line to say, if I have to develop resilience, let my child take a no from me first, then the outsider, then their peers, right? And therefore they get into this low resilience and the kind of issues that you see. Yes, education system definitely needs to change, has changed. I would say the new education policy that has come up has concentrated a lot on, mental health, resilience, yoga, meditation during the curriculum, and progressive schools like Symbiosis and many others are actually bringing in this, because we realize that we also feel equally guilty if a child is going through a problem. You feel that, have I not done enough for this child? That and education, what is education all about? I really don't think it's just about skills and employability. It's actually creating good human beings. So another element to your talking about, you just mentioned something, that how do you make children understand. So what we've brought in is the service learning element. So 4 credits of an academic curriculum are dedicated to community work, because unless I see someone who's less fortunate than me, and unless I go into the community and actually do something for that less fortunate child or person, how am I going to develop this feeling of compassion? Because you have everything around you, where are you going to be compassionate about? So exposing children, especially undergraduate students, to such things,
yeah.
school students to service learning, is something that we are concentrating on. So, one is building the resilience through the Center for Emotional Wellbeing, providing counselors, and also exposing students to things that they've never ever seen. I mean, my own grandchildren, when they go into the community, we've adopted 35 villages around the university campus. I mean, for them, it's for the first time that they're actually seeing something like this, right? So, I think it's all about a collective effort. And I would also urge to parents that if for their birthdays, instead of throwing parties, I mean, they should, I mean, that's also fun and enjoyment. But alongside, can they train their children to donate something to the less fortunate? I've done this for my, for my kids' birthdays. I've always done this. So even today, when my kids are on their own, they're married and all that. But for my son would go to Nivara, which is an old age home, and my daughter goes to Sofosh. She takes her little children and goes to Sofosh on her birthday and does this. I think this is very simple, and it's a responsibility of parents and the education system.
It also creates a seva bhav,
yes, absolutely.
the power to give. So, emotional resilience is equal to becoming a giver. So, the more we give, the more it's building up inside us to be giving. But the more we become like this, it's all about I want, it's all about I, me, the more it's going to dip. So, even seva bhav builds up that power to give, and giver
And
is what is
compassion is so innate in
innate.
all of us, right? I mean, it just has to be, rekindled, right?
Yes.
It's not you have to create something in a human being. It's very natural to feel, that way. So I think there are many aspects to how we can really bring mindfulness, seva bhav, and make a person resilient from within to be able to not mistake their life situations for, what it is. But if we were to really look at today's challenges. I mean, we talk about all of this being there. How big a challenge it is, and really, what if one had to pinpoint, right, on a challenge and a solution, right? If we were to say, okay, this is the challenge, this is the solution, and just draw a chart. I mean, can you identify specific challenges and specific solutions?
See, I won't say I can identify a specific solution and a specific challenge. As I said earlier, also, it has to be collective.
Mhm.
Challenges, yes, because of see, you can't stop the exposure, through media, through various sources that children have. Can you restrict, can you screen, can you diversify that exposure to children at different levels? I mean, Would you like your child to really be on a smartphone all the time, or would you really restrict what he or she is watching? So it starts from there to training mindfulness and so on later, as they grow up in at the school level, or at the higher education level. So I really can't pinpoint a particular challenge. Yes, there is a challenge of exposure to a lot of knowledge. How do you filter that knowledge, and how do you bring in the better or the good knowledge, and how do you make children apply that knowledge to for good things? That's also very critical. See, you can get bombarded with knowledge. Can you filter what should come in, and can you actually apply that for good things in the society? So that's where education will play a role. And when I said service learning, when I spoke about compassion, these are things by which children know how to apply a particular knowledge that they've got to the betterment of society. For example, the engineering school, now they create products. If you really want to create a product for your own self to generate a startup and then be wealthy and so on, or is it that you create a product for the society, which is social innovation? So we are training students to do that. Go into the villages, find out problems in these 35 villages, and can you really develop products for the betterment of that community? You can't think of the country at large. So I think every university, every education institution can create this little ecosystem within or surrounding themselves and say that this is my community. Can I betterment that community? If I can better that community, probably when these students move out into the outside world, they'll better the community that they're living in.
No, and
So,
unlike other parts of the world, we actually have a lot of real world problems to solve in India.
no, and let me tell you, there are foreign students and I said students from 85 different countries, and especially African students, Sister Shivani. Their problems are still grave.
Yeah.
And if you teach them the social innovation, imagine what is going to happen to even countries as small as Chad and Ivory Coast, where these applications of knowledge are going to be phenomenal in changing their societies.
So, as we've been discussing this very clear shift that needs to happen within people, is there a technology, is there a process, is there something that can enable this shift to happen, within each individual so that they can become more resilient to today's times?
Like we were discussing the word compassion. Till a few years back, the doctor's oath was taking care of others. That was their oath which they had to take. And then a few years back, they changed the oath and they said doctors are experiencing compassion fatigue. And so now the oath has changed to doctors first take care of yourself, because self care will create compassion. You know, if I am not well, I cannot get up and take care of you. It's not possible. I need someone to take care of me because I am not well physically. So that we understand. So emotionally also, if I am not energized, I don't have the strength to think about how you are feeling, how you are feeling. I need the world to take care of me because I am not feeling right. So when self-care is not there, ability to be compassionate is like closure. So leave alone being compassionate towards strangers, we're not being able to be compassionate even towards families. So that's where the serving element, which you said, seva bhav, it is saying compassion, it is integrating that. So we have to start with self care. So that's the technology. How much time are we spending? At least 10 minutes daily to start taking care of the self. So it's two elements in that. One is nutrition, second is exercise for the mind. So nutrition for the mind is content. So like Dr. Vidya said, restrict content consumption, introduce healthy content. So just restricting content consumption is not working. So if somebody says, okay, I will use my phone only for an hour, but in that 1 hour, if I'm consuming only negative content, then that 1 hour is toxic for me. Somebody could use the phone 2 hours, but if out of that 1 hour is healthy content, then they are strengthening themselves. So it's not just how much I'm eating, it is what I'm eating, what is very important also. So a lot of parents are doing this, okay, digital detox, restricting content, but it's about what we are consuming. So introducing an element of healthy content. So what we do through thinkrite.me is a 3-minute affirmation, a 3-minute reflection, nice positive articles. So we're trying to introduce healthy content. And second is affirmation or meditation. So that's the exercise. So this is the diet, that's the exercise. Same like the body, same for the mind. Start giving good diet, start exercising a little, and we're going to be like this. It takes not more than 2 months of dedicating 15 minutes at least for yourself, and you find yourself. It's easier to strengthen this than to strengthen the body. Body takes a little longer. This is much faster.
But I really liked what you said, and we would be happy to, connect with this technology called thinkrite.me, because, finally the attention span of kids today, whether in school or colleges, is very, very small. And when you said 2 to 3 minutes, I think is just ideal. Even if you want to make a reel and send it on WhatsApp, it can't be beyond that. So I think this is the attention span of the young people. And I also liked what you said, being a doctor myself, that, to treat a physical illness or the physical state, it's good nutrition and exercise. And if you can do the same thing to your mind, imagine what can happen. I don't mind Symbiosis being the first university in India to actually pilot this, and let us do it scientifically. Let us give it to students and see the impact at different levels, undergraduate, postgraduate, because again, there the thinking process differs. Today, an undergraduate student and a postgraduate student, because a postgraduate student, when we see them or interact with them, we know that they've come up with some already preconceptions in their mind, so it's difficult to really mold their mind than what you can at the school level or the undergraduate level. So let's try this out and see how technology can help our Center for Emotional Well-being. Maybe
And maybe this creates the big India export to the world, because ultimately a lot of this has been ingrained in Indian culture for so many, centuries actually. And if India can take it out in the right scientific manner for the world to be able to understand and appreciate, I think we are sitting at the right point, to do that. And interestingly, if you see education, it will also be the biggest trigger to bring about this shift in the real corporate world. When we work with corporates today, we are creating no anger zones. We are creating, different areas within companies where, the corporates or the people working there are going to be more mindful. But the future employable workforce is coming out of, institutions here, right? So if we start them early, this will become very natural, Sister Shivani, in all of these, in the workplace. And I think if we can take that lead, it'll be great.
And most important is, how would you create a leadership quality otherwise?
Yeah.
Leadership, you'll say we're creating leaders out of our management institutes and all, but how can there be a leader without emotional resilience?
absolutely.
How can there be a startup without, I mean, startups go through so many. Chalo, if I take a job, it's still more secure, even though we're very uncertain with even jobs. But a startup, everybody suddenly wanting, startup karna hai, startup karna hai. How much emotional resilience is needed for a startup?
Much more.
Much more than that. Much more than that. So, that's something that this has to gently get integrated into the curriculum. Right now, we start it as optional, like, meditation, yoga, but very soon it will have to go compulsory, because sometimes I, as a child, might not know that this is healthy for me. I feel it's not cool to do it, so I'm not doing it. But my elders will have to now push it on me. कि ये करना ही है, you have to do this, because they know the consequence of what's going to happen in my life if I don't get to do it. So Bharat is a culture where we had gurukuls. So even a Raja, the ruler, had to go to the gurukul. Okay, the guru would not come to the palace to teach the Raja. And what is being taught in the gurukul is कि before you become a Raja, you learn Swarajya. You learn how to self-rule. Then you will be able to rule your kingdom. If you do not learn self-rule, you cannot become a Raja. So you can't just go make somebody and say, okay, you're the head of this company or you're a start. Cannot do it. They just cannot. So that self-rule, the Swarajya, will have to go in as a subject. It is a subject actually. It's really not optional. It's a subject.
It is leadership, right?
It is a subject. Self-rule, self-discipline, mind control. This is a subject. It's not just for psychiatry or psychology. Emotional management will need to become a subject.
No, we do that. We do that in Symbiosis. So it's not just about providing counselors through the Center for Emotional Wellbeing, but we actually ingrain it into the curriculum. At least for the last 2 years, I can see that post-COVID and
Yeah,
coming back
COVID was a big
post-COVID,
trigger.
there's been a sea change of the kind of students that have come in who never saw colleges and universities, just sat on a screen and had a virtual university that was teaching them. But suddenly when they come, the kind of freedom and the whole exposure probably is so intimidating that you definitely see all these issues cropping up much more than what they were before, I would say. So I think that's a whole generation that has to be treated a little differently till they come into normalcy and, walk the path that all the rest of the world has walked. So that's another challenge that I think world over all of us are facing.
Yeah, no, I think it's so many subjects around this, to take forward. But we have limited time, and we're going to experiment with this new section, which is keeping with the current times. Where we have a limited amount of attention span for the digital generation. Actually, I think we want every listener, every viewer to be able to benefit from the words that you all are going to share, and I think it's an endeavor for us to be able to see how we can involve many questions to touch important aspects of different people's thought processes. So maybe these are questions more specific to each of you, and maybe I'll just rotate it from one to the other, and then we can take this forward. So Vidya, to you, what does mindfulness really mean to you?
Mindfulness really means having a clear mind, a calm mind that can accept the society that I live in the way it is, and my reactions to that society will not depend on what's happening around me, but will depend on my own behavior towards the situations that are happening around me. I think that is mindfulness.
Very powerful. What is the one thing you do to start your day on a positive note?
Meditation, 4 o'clock in the morning, Brahm Muhurat.
Well, for those who are looking at what you can do first thing in the morning is.
And today people are paying money to learn how to wake up at 5 a.m. and it's called the
Yes,
5 a.m.
yes,
Leadership Club.
exactly.
So leadership
Yeah,
quality,
Yeah,
early morning.
yeah. I wake up at the
Yes.
same time as you, though. Yeah, it makes a world of a difference. Yeah. How would you describe your growing up years in one word, Vidya? One word.
In a wonderful family that supported me, not just me, but my sister as well. And I grew up in a secular environment where, diversity of cultures was something that I grew in. And I think that's again something, I know I'm supposed to give short answers, but let me just elaborate. We used to have foreign students living in our house because there was no symbiosis. There's no physical symbiosis. So anybody had a problem, my parents would get them in. But now I realize that the kind of culture that I grew or my sister grew up in definitely changed our personalities. So I think it's very important for parents also to look at this aspect of how a child grows in a family which is full of diversity, of diverse people. A joint family with people around you who can support you emotionally. Sometimes it's not possible because of nuclear families, but still, I think efforts should be made for a child to grow up in a very wholesome family than just having two parents that the child grows up. So maybe vacation.
Family are.
Yes. I
go
think
so hand.
education and family are two things that shape up your personality.
Oh, thank you. What are you feeling in this moment?
I'm in the moment and enjoying the moment. Very beautiful experience. Lot of learning has happened.
Any specific feeling?
Feeling that actually earlier personally, I was not doing so much seva with children. I thought it's the adults that who need to be learning, all of us. And then we have to automatically create that culture at home. But after hearing all this, I feel now we need to go into the schools and colleges and start there. So that's that shift.
No, absolutely. What, according to you, is your biggest strength?
People around me. I think people who work with us or me, people who are friends with me, people who are my family. It's all about people who give strength.
Your strength, your quality. What is your one strength?
And I would say compassion.
That's it.
I would certainly say compassion.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it reflects in whatever I do every day, whether it's family, it's at home or it's at work.
Very important for us, like you're saying, once we know our strength, it's only then can we take it out, and we should not shy away from talking about maybe what is our strength.
It's just not, I wouldn't have been able to articulate it now that when she said, okay, what's your strength, what's your strength, then I just
I'll tell you, at our retreat centers, we do these ice-breaking exercises. So they come from corporate groups. So we give them a slip and say, write your 5 weaknesses, 5 strengths. It takes ages. And because they're coming from the same organization, like you said, you tell me what's my weakness, what my strength is. And then you give them another slip and you say 5 weaknesses, 5 strengths of the person sitting next to you. And that's very fast. This is because we don't spend time too much with knowing ourselves. We're looking more at other people. And also, we believe that I should not talk about my strength. We think it's ego, but it's not ego. Unless I know my strength, I'll not be able to harness it more. And unless I know my weakness, I won't be able to change it. So that's where spirituality helps us to understand our strengths and our weaknesses and to work with both.
But someone like you would know.
Oh, lots. See, now my target of my strength is rising. Now, so then your weaknesses become, it's like you clean the table first. It's only that all the stains which are visible. But when the deeper cleaning is the tougher one, because the top layer cleaning is very easy. But then you go into the deeper. Why did I create this one thought also for this person? I could have been right in my first thought. Why did I create the right thought after creating 5 waste thoughts? So now it's become a little deeper. And then you see even more of it. Earlier it would be, why did I say this? I wouldn't go at that level. Now it is, why 5 wrong thoughts? And wrong also doesn't mean negative. Even if I create a thought, why did Rajan have to do this? Now for me, that's a wrong thought because it was judgmental. So that is like finer checking, sees more weaknesses.
So for you, what is your biggest inspiration?
Inspiration is the spiritual study. That's my source of inspiration because every time I'm getting more and more and more from there, and every day it is helping to energize. So I think that's the biggest source of inspiration.
3 things that bring you joy. 3 things.
My grandchildren. That's the first thing that they're the first people who bring joy to me. My people around me, which is Symbiosis family, that's my extended family. So anything there, brings joy. And my medical friends, my medical friends. So these are 3 things that really bring joy, honestly. I mean, I feel joyful when I'm, in these 3 environments.
So again, Sister Shivani will say the thing that brings you joy when you are not dependent on others. I'm just saying, this is the shift. This is something we need to think about. No, but this is
he's learned so much already.
Everyone. Yeah.
See, he's learned so much already.
Just bring this together.
Yes, learned so much already.
In fact, I was thinking whether I said the right things, at my right strength. It's just tickling in my mind.
No, but Vidya, this is the shift I think that we got to make everybody make.
Yeah.
Because we derive so much of our joy and everything from everything around us, our life situation, that we forget that life is the biggest joy.
No, not only that. This is what, if I derive my joy from people, then I also create my pain from people. But this is emotional dependence. Yes. So, yes, I love being with people.
Weakness, I would have said this. Dependency on people. Yes, because you are. That's your weakness. You can't. I mean, that's my weakness for sure.
No, not that way dependency, but also then my pain also
but that's what
gets created from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the last one is for both of you. And my life is dash. These are questions that people are asking. People are seeking answers to. And I think what we are looking as a guidance from here to be able to
introspection. I mean, these questions are actually an introspection of how did I never think what my life is. That's
my life is about being in that right vibration in every thought.
Working to be there.
Yeah, just there. That's the aim. That's the purpose. So that takes care of me. And that helps me to be in that mode of being able to radiate that to everybody. So it's seva of the self and then automatically seva of everyone else.
Feeling blissful always.
Yeah, so at the right vibration. So that's where the weakness, the minute it comes down, to take it higher again.
Can I say something? I mean, I don't know whether it's the right thing, but at least that's been my objective. I don't know whether that's my life is. I don't know whether that's the right. But my objective is really through an education system to mold personalities of young men and women to become responsible citizens of this country. Probably responsible citizens of the world. I mean, even in medicine, I did medicine. What did we learn? The way we were actually skilled to, so even today, for 10 years, I've not done a cesarean section. I can go and do it. Definitely. I'm confident I can do it. But were we trained to be compassionate to patients? Never. None of the medical curriculums in India, even today, train you to be compassionate. Now, how do you train to be compassionate? That's another area of, of research. Can we create compassionate doctors, no matter which discipline, whether she does surgery, ortho, or gynae? The first thing is compassion, right? With a doctor should have. And I liked what you said, that the
Self-care.
doctors have to take, yeah.
How do you want them to be compassionate when they're fatigued? Not physically fatigued, emotionally fatigued, because they're only consuming the pain. In a healthcare setup, there's a lot of pain. And if you're just consuming pain and not energizing yourself on a daily basis, then over a period of time, it's a burnout. A few years back, there was an article, highest number of suicides in India, farmer first, number two, doctors. Highest burnout and nervous breakdown rates because in a setup of pain throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's not the surgery or the crisis which is the cause of their stress. It's the energy depletion about being in a setup of pain. And then that's fine. That's your profession. But just energize yourself on a daily basis a little. So that few minutes of self-care.
Absolutely. And I think, now you're teaching so much of technology to students in all disciplines. Coding, right from school, kids should learn coding because, then India will be the leaders and so on. Or anything else, artificial intelligence now creating havoc and all. But unless you teach technology and unless you train the mind to apply it for the right things, that's where education is all about, right? So we are working on all those things right now. And I think here mindfulness will play a very important role because how do you train your mind to do right things? Even if you have a technology, can you only use it for the right things for society? You could use it for wrong things, and that's how.
Yeah, the moment you take a break and you just spend that minute to think about it, you know what is right and what is wrong. And I think education enabling you to strengthen that, and build that is so critical. And I think now it's been a wonderful conversation, and I know we can go on for as much as is needed. But thank you so much, both of you, for such an enlightening, enriching conversation on a subject that is so critical for every person on the planet. I would say it applies to 8 billion people because education never stops till you continue to live, and one continues to learn every day. And we hope through this podcast, we've been able to highlight some of the key areas or some select areas that can make a meaningful difference. So again, thank you, Sister Shivani. Thank you, Vidya.